Give a rock star 10 out of 10. Welcome to my friend, Mr. Robert Gill.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You got your clicker?
I want to give yourselves an applause. Don't worry about me. I think that being here on your time and your dime, it's a good rhyme, time, dime, and rhyme. I think you folks being here, being able to step into what you want to step into for whatever business cycle that you're in personally, whether it's the beginning, middle, towards the end, I always love to give all you folks a good shout out, because I know that today is Thursday, right? Wednesday? Today's Wednesday, and we're in the middle of the week, and I'm not sure where everybody's coming from, but you're here in Utah learning to level up your game, right? So there was a time in my life where I didn't have these opportunities to be able to speak in front of good folks like yourself. There was a time in my life where when it came to money, I lived in a financially scarce mindset. There was a time in my life that business decisions I made were out of fear and greed. There was a time in my life where really I didn't take myself serious, so I thought other people didn't take me serious. And because of that, I was in a situation where I've learned the benefits of a scarce mindset when it comes to money and an abundant mindset, right? And I think that money is such a sensitive topic because people, I already lost the clicker. Oh, here we go. So people don't understand that we're conditioned from day one in our neighborhood, in our house, in our society, by the schools that we go to on how to think about money. So today's going to be all education. We're not here selling anything. Keep your checkbook in your pocket. It's going to be to provide more value than anyone in my space when it comes to you folks on how you receive that value. And my outcome would be by the end of this show or conversation that you walk away with more information than you did before that is actionable and implementable. That you feel a sense of, wow, this was unbelievable, and you walk away fulfilled. That you know the time you spent here, which I'm sure you've already gotten so much more value than what your money was for, that this even doubles or triples that. Right? So all I ask in the next 20 minutes, not for me, because I'm videotaping this, so I'm going to be able to play this out over and over again, is that you take some notes, rewind it back, listen deeply. You can ask me questions afterwards. I assure you this will be a very, very good exercise for everybody in here. And if everybody knows everything I'm going to talk about, that's awesome. Just don't give away the trade secrets. So for me, like I said, I had the good fortune of living two lives. One life of financial scarcity, running. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, so I don't have to change anything, right? Great, okay. So I've had the good fortune of living in a household where we ran out of money on the 15th or 20th of every month, right? Terrible feeling. Parents fought. I was the youngest of four, so I always used to put up a front. And because of that, I buried a lot of my own insecurities, and I followed that path a little bit into my late teens and early 20s. Couldn't keep a job. I had the good fortune in high school. There was one thing that I enjoyed, which was basketball. My older sister married a Bob Hurley, who's the coach of St. Anthony's basketball in New Jersey. It's a legendary basketball program. His brother is my brother-in-law. So since I was this big, I had been around basketball. Everything else I didn't really care about. And we had no education when it came to money. So the only thing that gave me a sense of purpose was to play basketball. And I had the good fortune of playing in college for a couple of years. But at that point, I was already on my major was drinking. I did really good. I got a 4.0 in drinking and a 1.6 in academics. So when I finally left school, and to this day, I still haven't graduated, just so everybody knows, right? Haven't graduated. But when I left, I remember feeling that I was going to be on a bar, that I wasn't going to amount to anything, that there was nothing I would be able to contribute. I'd never have a family, and I wouldn't have a sense of purpose. And two good things happened. Life slammed me right in the face, and because of that, I went and got sober. One day at a time since July 1996. And since then, I've had the good fortune of living a life of self-imprisonment into self-freedom and being able to make choices and being able to understand that a bend in the road isn't the end of the road. It's actually the greatest gift, adversity. It became life's gymnasium. And because of that, I went on a path, and I went to eventually be the owner of a couple of different businesses. And one of the things that as I sit here today, that I'm pretty good at is building sales teams. and building teams and creating a buzz and being able to, behind that, have a structure that can help execute on what we do. And that has been the gift of clear thinking, great mentors, by the way, and always being the student. The second I'm the smartest person in the room, we're all in trouble. When I'm a student, and I always remain a student every day, everybody's going to be in a good place. So as a result of it, what became real important to me when I divorced myself from money is that people were more important than profits. Relationship capital is where it's at because it's not about resources, it's about being resourceful, right? And as I learned this, because we have structured systems in place that teach us a certain way to do things, that put us in a box in our thinking, that really gets into our belief system, and we make decisions based on something that everybody else taught us over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And how do you break that pattern? How do you recognize the pattern? How do you know that you're not stuck in a pattern? Well, it's because your best thinking, good, bad, or indifferent, optimal or suboptimal, got to where you are. Everybody here today got some good thinking because they're here. You showed up. Showing up is what it's all about, right? And at some point, there's going to be effective steps that could be taken to take you to the next step. So over the last, 20, 15, 20 years, we as a team have had the good fortune of coming across 23,000 approximately cash flow analysis, being able to be a part of 10,000 different kind of plans, some big, some average, some small. We don't discriminate at Epic, just so you know. And for us, it became real important to understand how to communicate a message to folks and how to make money fun. And how to understand that it's okay if you're in trouble, and it's also okay if you're feeling a high level of success, and make sure you know down deep psychologically what your economic temperature is. Because the first time I made $1 million, 2008, 9, and 10, down deep, I didn't deserve it in my own thinking, and I did things that later manifested itself out why I didn't deserve it. I stopped going to meetings. I wasn't working as hard. I was doing behavior, suboptimal behavior, that made me do a checkup for the neck up, because as it went up, what brings us up brings us down if we're not aware of what's happening. And that holds true in any part of our life, not just money, right? So we know that right now we've had 2 bank failures. And what's interesting about those, I think the total number was like $323 billion on those 2. And I went back and I researched something in 2008, and it was 25 banks, same thing, and it was $373 billion. So 2 banks versus 25 banks, 370 versus 323 billion. I know we printed 15 trillion over the last 12, 14 years, but that's pretty scary. $31 trillion in debt, that's America's credit card. Interest rates, as we know, went from 3 to 7%. We know the stock market's been sideways, up and down. Crypto, that thing has gone. I'll just talk about Bitcoin. We went from 70,000 to 16,000. Right at the peak of TikTok, when people were buying stuff from TikTok, TikTok became the place to be, to drop your 401k and sell out your IRA and listen to people that don't even have licenses that now are working on an island doing 10,000 push-ups in one day. It's interesting. And I just saw a video today. They're back at it again, selling another program. So we know about real estate, and the truth is, during COVID, cash positions were very high, right? And then, obviously, they didn't give us a calamity bell warning. No one told us that rates were going to go up. No one told us there was going to be a war in in Ukraine. Nobody told us that real estate was going to start going down. It just happened, and then everything last year began to really get into a correction, even bear market. At some point, there was some bear market numbers in there. And as a result of it, credit card debt up, cash down. And by the way, this is a cycle that happens over and over again. Just look at the history of our economy. And if you become a student of that, and no one's saying you got to become an economist here. Just surround yourself with people that can give you good information, not selective, right? So what I've learned is what people really want when it comes to money, right? Or let's call it money freedom, and that's to do what they want. Who would like to be able to do what they want, when they want, how they want, with who they want, without any financial time constraints? That's the goal. It's not about who diversifies a portfolio, right? It's about time freedom. And how do you get there? So it's important to ask empowering questions. So instead of saying, hey, yeah, let's go with an alpha measurement versus a beta measurement versus, looking at the portfolio design, it's really to live the life of financial freedom. And that looks different for everybody, because everybody's circumstance is a little bit different. And it's not happening, at least in my opinion, because there's a lot of financial noise. right? Whether it's our neighbors, whether it's our financial educators who are not on the same page for our benefit. We read something, we see something, we hear something. There's a lot of financial noise, and it's really kind of in these diagrams right here, right? So if we understand how to see that, how to ask critical questions about that, what begins to happen is we give ourselves better answers and better choices come our way that we never anticipated in the first place. Now, you have to understand, though, there's a game that you are involved in, whether you like it or not. And the game is the financial institutions and what you've been conditioned to do, which is really to buy term insurance and invest the difference in IRAs and 401ks. I mean, this thing's been around for decades. We're also talking about Social Security dependency. Trading time for money. Trading time for money. Now listen, if somebody's not saving money and they're doing a 401k, the person doing a 401k versus the person that's not saving anything is going to do better, right? You feel that? However, if the person that's saving for the 401k can understand education when it comes to money, traditionally think outside the box to complement the traditional thinking, well, then you begin to have a little bit more financial security, can create generational wealth in a much more efficient manner. So, although we know what the banks want us to do and the financial institutions, the truth is investing in business. I'm not selling any businesses today. I'm not selling any real estate. You want to be able to understand what an ecosystem merger is, which I'll get into there for a second. And if anybody's good in sales, there's so many companies out there that have sales teams that are really not performing very well, and you could find yourself in a position to consult for equity. That's no money. And you get money, and you own a piece, right? And then you want to keep your money in motion. But let's talk about an ecosystem merger. So how many folks here actually go into networking groups? Raise your hand. Networking groups. And what kind of groups are they? What are the ones that you like the most? Meetup? Where at? Is it your meetup? Okay. And when you go to a meetup, is it like outside? Is it inside? And the outcome of the meetup, is it you connect with, you meet, and then you guys do business together? So give me an example of the best meetup situation you had. And what kind of business? Okay, medical consulting company helping veterans with disabilities, so he needs doctors? And what kind of doctors specifically? Okay. Okay, so if you had a list of 1,000, are they in the state or across the country? Okay, so if you had a list of, let's say, 10,000 orthros, but a system behind it that could put them on your front door, would that be more efficient than a meetup? Okay, so, what's your name? What is it? Junius? Can I call you Jay Nice? Okay, so Jay just described something very powerful, right? He talked about what he does as a meetup, so it's not a networking group, so to speak. It's a little bit more designed differently. The language is different for a reason. They call it a meetup because they don't want it to sound like a networking group, right? Or what is that other thing where people go to the diner at 7 o'clock in the morning? What is that called? BNI. So remember, words mean everything. Transformational vocabulary has energy. So they've designed a strategy where there's meetups, and he meets the kind of avatar that he's looking for. And in that space of looking for that avatar, it drives traffic to him. So he has a model that's been very effective. However, how many Jays could be created off of Jay's model? Can Jay replace himself 10 times over? That's the real question. And have you done it yet? Okay. So you want to know what an ecosystem merger is? Tax Hive and Epic. That's an ecosystem merger. Tax Hive has what they have, Epic has what they have, and we both have very large communities. Right? So think about what's happening right now. That's an ecosystem merger. That's how Epic, who has 6 of these, went from 8 to 3,000 appointments a month. But it went from 8 to 25 first. And from 25 to 50. And this started 4 years ago. We got connected with Epic 6 months, Tax Hive Epic, We got connected with Tax Hive about 6 months ago, right? Now, why does Tax Hive and Epic work so well? Because Tax Hive is showing you not just write-offs, but tax strategies, right? Tax strategies are different than tax write-offs. Tax write-offs are traditional. Traditional accountants, it's like dead bodies on the battlefield. They're just going to give you a 401k write-off. Tax strategies, that's a whole other game. And it empowers the entrepreneur. It empowers the person that's really, truly looking to create that time freedom that we're talking about, right? Yes? Oh, you really can't hear me? How's this now? Yeah? Did anybody miss what I said? Because I was just dropping bombs. Okay. So accountants, and I'm not making fun of it. They have what they do. It's what they were taught. But they have a traditional approach. And they're not thinking of, hey, put your money into a 401k. They're not thinking later on when you're 65, it's going to get taxed at ordinary income. And they're not even going to be working with you. There's going to be somebody else. What I love about Tax Hive is not only their genius to be able to get in touch with you wherever you're from, because I think everyone here is probably from a different state, I would assume. So that genius in and of itself is incredible. I want you to think about that, because taxes is boring. Who wants to talk about taxes unless you're going to save money? Marketing geniuses, right? Let's honor that, because, by the way, guys, gals, look around. You think this just showed up last week? The brain trust to get this to where it is right now, that's who you model. That's how you become an entrepreneur. That's how you become a multiple business owner. Surrounding yourself with folks that have been there, done that, you could stand on their shoulders, collapse time, turn decades into days, and put money back in your pocket where it belongs. Take that and rewind it back. So an ecosystem merger, each and every one of you folks could do it, even if it's on a smaller level. And when you do that, just get ready, because your business is going to be able to explode. And what makes us work so well with Tax Hive is our job is to execute on the beautiful work that they do to put you, based on all their return, the summary of what they put together, into our world so we could execute on whatever plan you want. That's the magic. Like-minded individuals, ecosystem merger, you want to make sure you connect with people that have the same common goal, and you're sharing good wisdom to their community and vice versa. That's what makes this special. So this is where we begin to not become an economic soldier that is working for somebody else, but we create our own dream. And the three biggest wealth eroding factors that are out there, at least from my opinion, is lost opportunity cost, inflation, and taxes, right? Quick example of a lost opportunity cost, and this is important. So if you understand this system of thinking, everything will change. A lost opportunity cost is, let's say if you have an S&P fund. It's in an after-tax account, and they buy and sell within that fund, and at the end of the year, there was a profit. You owe $1,500 in taxes. You get a 1099. This isn't a 401k, this is an after-tax account. Well, if you owe $1,500 in taxes, the question is, are you going to take money out of the S&P fund to pay for those taxes? Because that's going to now endanger sequence of returns rate risk or put you right in that path. Or you're going to take it out of your checking or savings account to pay it. Either way, that $1,500 is going to be lost forever. It's out of your world. It's into the government's world. And the question is, if it's out of your world, what kind of rate of return would it have earned had it stayed in your world? And then take that splash and ripple it out 10, 20 years later, and it becomes devastating. If you understand this on all your different products and all your different investments and can really play the game that what the bank does, you could, over your lifetime, recapture $2 to $5 million just by understanding how to recapture lost opportunity costs. Now, I think everybody here knows what inflation is, right? Our money is worth less each year than it was the year before. So we're in 2023. If it was 2010 and there was $10,000 right here and I jumped into the spaceship, to this time machine, I came back a minute later for me, but 10 years later for you, it would look like 10, but it would feel like 6. Right? The erosion of your money is present when it comes to inflation. The rate at which goods and services rises in the economy, high rates of inflation, and we're seeing it now, results in a decline of purchasing power. And check out energy, food, cost of borrowing, housing. It's happening as we speak. I think they raised interest rates again today. It's interesting. How much? 0.25, Johnny. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think over the next 2, 3, 4 years, the folks that position themselves the right way as we get out of into the next economic run, whatever that's going to look like, or could be generational game changers in your life, because you could put yourself in a position to really take advantage of all the different things that are going to continuously be on sale. So one of the things that we talk about is not just a simple write-off, not just a simple tax strategy, right? But, how do you increase your money's velocity, right? So folks like to buy businesses. Well, if you buy a business, you're going to get an ROI, and you're also going to get write-offs when you own a business, right? Everyone here, I think, is a business owner. Is that correct? I would assume. Yep. So there's write-offs that you're playing with. One of the things that we do, and I'm sure you folks see it all over the place because it's red hot right now, is how to become your own bank all over social media, right? It must pop up all the time. And the truth is, it's really good if you do it the right way. If you don't do it the right way, you're going to be very angry. And the way you do it is you overfund a cash value life insurance plan only to borrow against it to put into other assets that are going to earn another rate of return. Right? Overfund the life insurance. Right? So sometimes what happens is people become their own bank and they buy the wrong insurance policy because the agent who only delivered 8 policies for the year doesn't do the right policy, right? So in that case, you would be upset. However, if you overfund the policy, you could take that money out. It's still going to earn a rate of return uninterrupted in your policy. Put into an investment that's going to give you multiple rates of return. I'll use real estate. Cash flow, mortgage interest write-off, depreciation. And if you buy a piece of property today, you want to sell it at a higher price later, right? Those are 4. Now, if you ran it through the insurance first, you pick up a guarantee plus a dividend to the insurance. 2 there, 4 here is 6, and the 7th is you have your renter pay back your policy, and that's how you become your own bank, right? You like that? Yeah, that's how I get down, bro. So now, here's the trick, though. Maybe no one here wants to buy real estate. What about businesses? Right? So for me, my social media, what I'll do is I'll borrow from my policy predictably, because I could do like a 6-month social media play, dump $25,000 a month into it for 6 months, be able to track the leads and the business that comes from it and see what the math is on borrowing that money. Right? That's me. You could do it for your own business. You could do it to buy other businesses. You could do it to finance your own debt. There's so many different things you do. But as you run the money in and out, notice if it stays in motion, it'll stay ahead of taxes. It'll stay ahead of inflation. It'll stay ahead of lost opportunity costs. Because any money you have in a specific product, like a 401k, it's always going to be subjected to the things you can't control. And it's stuck. Right? You can't leverage it. And if you borrow it, you get beat up. And if you take it out, you get punched in the face. So understand that and be able to kind of play within the space of all your different asset classes, right? Not just one, but all of them, and have your money work in and out of these asset classes. And if you do that, you'll be amazed at not just compounding a product, but compounding your overall world. 2 different things. Anyone want to get a picture of that? This is good. This is real good. This is real good right here. If you sit, I'm telling you, just this right here, I don't even know who did this. I think Eddie or Alexa, this is unreal, by the way. But it's good. All right, so now let's talk through what taxes look like, right? That's why, you're learning a lot about taxes. Taxes is one of the biggest wealth eroding factors that's out there. I think the average business owner, Chris Brown, had mentioned to me, overpays in taxes to the tune of about $40,000 each year. That's insane, right? If you're not it's not hard to get educated. And it's okay to ask your accountant questions. And by the way, I always have a rule. Whoever's your financial professionals, if you ask them questions and they get annoyed, fire them. Because they work for you, you don't work for them. Right? Come on up here. I got to get a hug for that one. You like that?
I love it.
So whoever your financial professionals are, because I know they get mad when the market's down and you call them and you're nervous, right? I know they get mad if you take your money out of the account. They act like you're you're robbing something when you're taking your own money out. They don't want to talk to your accountant unless they referred them. They don't want to talk to your trust officer or your fiduciary doesn't want to talk to your insurance agent unless they're all on the same page, which, by the way, should be your goal, right? Get them all aligned, right? You like that? Well, we actually do that. So understanding tax strategies comes down to choosing the right plan. Now, I like to call these right here the alphabet soup of retirement, right? But these I like. Now, for the entrepreneur that's in this room, these rules are a little bit different. I'm just talking about in general terms. You folks have a different play. You folks see things differently. That's why you're here. No one forced you to come here. This is the coalition of the willing. But if we understand the different retirement deductions as something that could be guaranteed with a write-off predictably to complement something that's not guaranteed, but now you're going to play in the space of entrepreneur, create multiple revenue streams off of multiple assets, the game's going to change real fast, right? So I'm going to give you a quick example of a retirement plan deduction. You know, Eric owns a company and he sets up a non-qualified deferred comp plan. And take a picture of this as I work through this, folks. This is good. Let's say if they put in 500 grand, spouse no contribution, deferred comp is 500,000. The tax federal and state write-off or savings is about $204,000. So the write-off is 5. The dollar for dollar savings is about $204,000. So we have doctor groups, we have construction folks or multiple business owners that swim in that space, right? And what that also does, if you invest that money properly, you're going to get the write-off, but you'll also get a guarantee rate of return with a predictable monthly benefit. This is where Tax Hive's a genius. This is where they, by the way, for you, with me, negotiated a deal. Has anyone ever dealt with a TPA, a third-party administrator? What is your yearly cost? Do you remember? What if I told you it was 0 if you worked with us? Does that change the game? Yeah. That's what an ecosystem merger does. Because it saves you folks money on the little things that could be wealth eroding along the way. That's the power of what we're trying to do. The congruency of the relationship. Right? And that's why we're here today. So we know about those three. We love to create maps on everything we do. We think that if you don't have a map, I mean, it's obvious. If you're driving a car and you don't know where you're going, you're going to get lost. Or if you're in the woods and if you don't know if you're east or west, you could be running east looking for a sunset. Who knows? You could get in trouble pretty fast. But we have the Epic Financial Freedom Map that really masters the rules, the formula, and the velocity of money. And we have a free gift. Once again, I said there's no sales. Keep your checkbook in your pocket, keep your credit card. I'm not going to ask you for any money. The gift we have is a $5,000 gift value. And this is called the Epic Wealth Builder, which, by the way, financial planners charge clients for this. It's an e-money platform that's through Fidelity that creates the highest level of financial organization of all your different institutions that you work with. Right? So a lot of people have spreadsheets that they do on their own or other things that are similar to this, but this is a little bit different because not only can you create interactive detailed charts and keep tabs on each of your investment assets, even if they're with different planners, you get to monitor and measure what they're doing. And this, my friend, is where you could bring your estate attorney, fiduciary, insurance agent, trust officer on this page right here because they could have access to it. And if they genuinely care about you and don't give you a hard time because they're on there with someone they don't know, you don't want to work with them. You want to make sure you're working with someone that's open to hear what other financial professionals have to say. Because guess what? Those professionals are going to be held accountable to each other for your benefit. And I know it's hard for you to create that. That's what the Rockefellers did. But why can't we mimic what they did on some level? Exactly. Why can't we put together strategies and plans that model what the most successful minds did by putting people around them that help them make good decisions, once again, turning decades into days and standing on the shoulders of others? Because technology is allowing that to happen right now. So this is a free gift. It's going to organize, monitor, and collaborate. And really what it does is it ties into all your financial institutions. And every day, I think it's every 30 minutes, it recalibrates based on current information. And it's an app. Get on your cell phone, your laptop, your desktop. It looks like this. So right here where you see cash, it could be 5 different banks. Credit cards, it could be 3 different brokerage accounts, 401ks, IRAs, different insurances, all your different loans for your real estate or business. And it's all on there. And it becomes a powerful measuring tool because you could then stress test certain investment choices that you want to make, plug in certain data, and see what it would look like 3, 4, 5 years later based on other investments. Much deeper look would be all the different buckets that are in the different portfolios. They could put it on a master pie chart, as well as carve out your own pie chart on the one specific account. There's an online vault for all your estate business plan documents. Give safety. You can put your wills, your trust, your passports, everything you can think of on there. But truly, it's a measurement tool. This is the vault. Really good stuff, folks. I promise. This is a stress test of a potential investment that you may do. You plug in inflation data, rates of return, the whole 9 yards. It ties perfectly into what we do with Tax Hive. Once again, I know this is like day 3, and it's like, what the hell is this shit? Like, you're looking at pie charts, and none of it makes sense. But the measurement tool it gives you when you talk to your accountant or your other financial professionals, it puts them on notice, and it makes sure that they come to you correct. They can't come with no fake confusion. I made up fake confusion, too. I didn't trademark it. Someone got to trademark fake confusion because a lot of people are starting to say it right now that aren't even in my world, that see me, and they say, oh, fake confusion. There's no fake confusion when you have stuff like this. And this is important because we only get, oh, this is where I'm going to have some problems. So I think you got to pick your phone up. Everyone put their phone up. Let me see it. Got to make me look good here. Okay. So if you scan me, I think there's a picture or something you got to take. From what I understand, it leads to this. And this is not fake confusion. This is me learning this game. And when you get here, if you click here, it gives you access to the Epic Wealth Builder for free. You have to fill out the information, so one of the team members at Epic will take you through exactly what it looks like and how you can start using it for yourself. Keep your checkbook in your pocket. No one's going to charge you for the free demo or the access. Did everybody click, take a picture, fill out? Take a picture, click, fill out. That right there. And then hit, and then click it again. So there's a picture and 2 clicks. I'm not going to get off until I know everyone did it. Come on. You are? Is it great? You love it? Yes. Do you mind coming up here for a second? Come on up. Thank you. What's your name? Hey, Bill. Rob Gill. Quick question. All I want to know, what is it that you love the most about that? That's an important thing for anyone that's out there.
Well, I mean, big picture, right? Usually you have maybe a quarterly or 6-month shop or an annual review with your customer, like everything we've talked about, right? You want to iterate and evolve and everything. You should be looking at it monthly, quarterly. What this gives you the ability to do is to look at that information real time, whenever you want, to monitor it, to see where you are. I can tell you to click at a button where my net assets are, where my debt structures, how my returns doing, how am I tracking when I go to, when I'm 95 years old, what am I going to have in the bank?
Can I ask you a question? Do you get alerts?
Yeah, if I want to configure them.
So what would that look like if you did want alerts?
Well, you're saying like a stock watch
Yep.
or something. I mean,
Yep.
I don't micromanage at that level at this point because
someone in here might want to do that.
I'm an old guy, Rob.
No, you're not. You look like you're 35 years old. What are you talking about?
I wish. He's closer to 35 than I am. Yeah, but the answer is yes. You can configure it and leverage, like any tool, right? You can manage it as effectively as you want, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, my trust people, talk to my wealth people,
Yep.
talk to my tax guy, right?
Yeah.
They all have access to it.
That's beautiful.
They can't be
I love
doing
that.
it in silos.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I really
Sure.
appreciate that. So he asked a beautiful question. If you could answer it again.
Go ahead. Junius, are you and Will related? No? Okay.
Yeah, I was just, well, I have
I want them to
e-money
hear it.
platform as well, but I thought it was just a view into all your different assets.
It is.
So it accumulates and it'll put together, like you said, like charts and
Yeah.
understanding, and you can,
Yeah.
whatever, look at what forecast, yeah.
so
But you can't trade
That-
directly
that-
on there.
Yep, that was his question. Can you trade on here? And the answer is no. And you don't want that because there's different financial institutions. You don't want to be able to move money from one platform to the other. But it's there as an aggregated tool for you. And to what Bill was saying, if you really take advantage of it, yes. This could be Eddie.
But I think, as I look at this, and as you think about it, right, is I don't know that people provide enough guidance
Yeah.
on the tax strategy.
Beautiful. And you're right about that. And by the way, because the accountants aren't anywhere near it, to be truthful about that. So that's a very powerful bullet. And when you have this going on in your world, what's going to happen is you'll be able to then be able to tie the accountant or Tax Hive with Epic or your accountant with your advisor, and you could have these critical conversations because guess what? The tax law changes a lot too. Rules change a lot too. You know, me and John are working on a client that they had a 20-year-old, John, what was the Fitz's, what was their thing? With the trust itself though, what happened with the rules over 20 years?
Yeah, they never updated the trust.
Yeah,
so,
so-
when you do a trust, it should be updated, on a yearly basis at minimum.
Yeah.
Looking at, what's changed, who's added to the family, who's out of the family, things like that. They haven't looked at it for 20 years.
And what's important though, these folks sold their business for $23 million. So we had the Epic Wealth Builder that had the vault, so we saw the trust inside the vault. And once it became clear, and it was, listen, the person that set it up did the best they can, but they were by themselves. They didn't have a team around them. They weren't connected to the tax. Even though they were connected to the account, there was a breakdown in communication. And when you're dealing with clients, this becomes a tool that forces the communication to be online. I don't mean online, but lined up properly. And when in the vault, when we saw the trust, that we recognized that the changes hadn't been made, and it was still the same thing from 20 years ago. Remember, the kids are older, the business is different, and the parents went from, let's say, at the time when they did it, 55, now they were north of 75 years old, so everything changed. So if you can't keep up with the change because our worlds are so complicated, we're getting hit with information all day long, every day, twice on Sunday, these technological tools become one of the greatest equalizers in your world if you use it the right way, and it's not complicated, I promise. So let me go back one.
I'll reload it for you.
Sorry. So, basically, if you want to follow us on YouTube, it's Rob Gill Epic Financial Strategies. Instagram is RobGill_Epic. And we also have Epic Financial Strategies. By the way, when I say we put money into social media, we don't do paid for ads. So anyone here working with Eddie Gartner, he's in the back. Eddie Gartner just had a video that had 1.3 million views. 1.3 million views. I want you to think about that. Think about that reach, right? And it's the power of congruent information. So check us out on all these Instagram pages, as well as my email is robgill@epicfinancialstrategies.com. YouTube is where you get our best content. I'll get to you 1 second, Jay, I promise. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that the congruency of right hand speaking to left hand is the key to make sure that you put yourself in the right financial position. What's going on, my friend?
I got a question because I get notifications from banks
Yep.
in my app all the time, specifically Chase, talking about meet with us for wealth strategies, wealth building, and things of that nature. And I don't know if I meet with them, they're not going to give me the right information to be congruent with my tax professional and things of that nature. How does this, because I liked what you had here, the cash value life insurance thing, and then the business and real estate. That's my next step, to buy multifamily real estate.
Yep.
How do you guys advise us in this model?
Beautiful. So thank you for that question. Did everybody hear the question and understand? Okay. So what's interesting is if he goes to that bank and goes to talk to the guy at the bank's not going to talk to his accountant. I can tell you that right now. That won't happen. They just won't, right? And if you have a wealth manager, right? You say you guys are managing $1 million, and you say, hey, I want to go buy, single, double family homes. He's going to try and talk you into a REIT, or she, because that's what they get paid on, right? Right, so you want to make sure that the organization understands that there's things beyond the wealth management side. Now, John, my partner back there, is a CFP. He handles our wealth management division. He has 7 different investment committee members that work directly for him. But he also knows that there's more than just money on the money management side, right? So you want to make sure that you have an accountant that understands real estate. Because each person might not want to buy real estate, but your accountant understands real estate and is willing to speak with the other professionals in your world. And I think Bill said it best. If you have the Epic Wealth Builder and you invite them onto it, they have no choice but to be held accountable. If they say, no, you want to not work? I mean, if you said, hey, I got a tool where all my money's on and my other planners, can you be on there? And they say no, you might want to just, give them a high five and start finding somebody else, right? So I think the key is to make sure that you're working with folks that are willing to work together for your benefit. Sometimes that can't happen. The first thing, this forces it to happen, the Epic Wealth Builder, but if for whatever reason it can't get connected, there's always pieces that we can help you fill in with for what we do. To the banker? Yeah.
You'll tell me to overfund my life insurance. Would it be someone at your company that advises me how to do that, or?
Yeah, we have a 25-person team that kind of handles all these different pockets of what we're talking about, how to overfund the policy, how to leverage it. We're not going to buy the real estate, but if you've identified the property you want to buy, we'll then go through, run the scenarios on the Epic Wealth Builder, show you the write-offs, have it tied in. In this case, you're from Tax Hive, so we would tie it directly in with Tax Hive.
Right.
To have that communication uniform so everybody's on the same page.
Cool, thank you.
Yep. Sure, I'll go into Q&A if anybody has any questions. We are available. We're here for the next 3 hours, just so you know.
All right, Brandon right here.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey, so
What's up, man?
Yeah, what's up, brother?
How you doing?
Awesome. How are you?
Good.
So
Every day.
let me ask you a question. So what do you feel like? Because everything that you talked about, I'm very well versed in.
Sure.
So
What do you do for a living?
well, I coach people into the 800s in personal credit, but my other business is the financial side.
What is it?
So with dealing with insurance and annuities and
So
those-
are you a licensed professional?
Yeah, I am.
What do you sell?
Life and
So
annuities.
freeze. I want everyone to witness what just happened.
Yeah.
Because I am very good at what I do. I knew right away who he was, right? I wasn't confused about it. So now you're going to see me hire him and bring him under Epic if he's actually open-minded. Go ahead.
I love you. So let me ask you this: what do you feel like is, like, with clients? Like, what do you feel like is the most, like, why is it that this is? Because there's so much garbage on Instagram and YouTube.
Yep.
With the whole like, be your own bank, and I've heard people do the, with whole life, and I mean, you could probably educate me on a lot of other stuff with the
Yep.
whole life and stuff. But I mean, obviously, whole life is dividends and. We can talk about IUL and all that stuff, and there's so many IULs out there, and it's, a lot of stuff. But what do you feel like is something that people struggle with when it comes to this, this stuff? Because obviously everything you're saying is completely valid.
What do you struggle with?
Well, for me, I'm not struggling with any of
On
it.
the
But
of whole life versus IUL.
well, I don't like whole life.
Yep.
But that's just me. I mean, I'm not going to say the names of the companies, but we know who they
Yeah,
are. So. Just because I've done my own investigation,
Yeah.
because I listen to people, but then I do my own little private investigation.
So you buy IULs?
Yeah.
Now, what is your hedge against when the stock market doesn't go up and the cost of insurance 5, 10, 15 years later?
Well, but it's
If you're going to become your own bank, not if you're not, but if you're going to become your own bank and leverage the money, what is your strategy against that?
I'd have to move my strategies on the play, like move the percentages, whatever that is in that particular policy of whatever insurance company it's with.
When you say move the percent, what do you mean?
Yeah, like for instance, like Nationwide you have to change your percentages or like
Of the breakdown of
Yeah,
the
the
portfolio.
breakdown. Yeah, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
the breakdown of the portfolio.
Got
So
it.
then I would have to do that, but sometimes it's at the end of the day, it's just getting started. Most people don't even get started. So
Because of chaos and confusion, too much
Exactly.
information, the right hand doesn't
Exactly.
speak to the left hand.
Exactly.
So I think what happens is, to answer your question, I think what you're asking me is, how do I handle when people don't know how to take the first step?
right.
So for us, we want to make sure that there's a level of congruency with all the professionals. And when we sit down, we go from hello to yes with folks, it takes at least 60 to 90 days. We don't do anything transactional. Our first 2 or 3 appointments are really about rapport building first. There's some folks working with us here that could testify to that. Getting into a full education of what their goals really are. So if somebody says to me, look, I want to write off, I don't want to take any risk, and I'm good with not touching money until I'm 60, 65, that becomes a pension strategy, or a 401k, or profit sharing 401k, or defined benefit profit sharing 401k, and I fund it with insurance and fixed annuities. Because they get the guarantee, they get the monthly benefit, and they get the write-off. If I hear someone say they want write-offs, but they also want to be able to create their own opportunities and get multiple uses of money, then we're going to shift to that plus what we just talked about on Become Your Own Bank. And when you overfund the whole life policy to the tune that we do it versus an IUL, as time goes on, the level of risk in the IUL is so much greater than there is inside the whole life because of the cost of insurance and because of the stock market. So we know that if the market goes up, there's a ceiling. We know if it goes down, it's zero, but it's really not zero because the cost of insurance went up.
I love that. And let me ask you this just for the room. Can you explain to people what a 401k really is, and if you're allowed to? And then number 2 is because when you're saying, funded, right? Making sure the policy's funded, people in this room probably have no clue what you even said. They were like, what? What is he talking about? Funded, money,
He's right.
Funded. And then number 3, oh shit, there's so many questions.
Let me go for the first 2. Hold number 3. What was the first one? Then I'll get into overfund.
Yeah.
The 401k.
401k is really.
Eddie, do you remember the name of the guy that created the 401k in the 80s that he said recently that that's not why he created it? I think
I don't remember his name.
the guy from Pirates of Manhattan.
Oh, you're talking about Barry?
Barry Dyke told us about the guy that created the 401k. And basically, it was created in the 70s, to really replace, I think, pension plans, right? And a 401k it's an IRS code 401k. You fund it, you put money into it, and it buys stocks or it buys mutual funds, basically, right? So if you had an after-tax account, you could buy those same mutual funds, right? But the difference is when you put money into the 401k, you get what they call a tax write-off. Some people call it tax savings. I call it a tax postponement. That results in substantial lost opportunity cost, limits your investment choices, no disability benefits, and will be taxed at ordinary income when you take it out. Yes. And they don't tell you, they tell you the magic of compounding, but you're also compounding fees, because the fees are insane, and you're also compounding taxes that, by the way, when you take it out, so if you saved money in taxes for 20 years, when you take it out that first 4 years, you're broken even on what you saved. So by the time you're 70 and for the rest of your life, that's all house money for the government. Yeah, he just said something. This is good.
Can you really reiterate the 401k?
It's a poison plan.
Well, that too, but that it's a tax code.
Yeah, it's IRS
It's not
tax code.
a retirement.
Come on up here, big dog. Come teach the class. Come on. So it's a poison plan. So the 401k, IRS tax code 401k. It's not an investment. It's a place that you put your money that you get a write-off, a savings, but it's a postponement, right? So if you look at some of these major companies that have huge 401ks right now, they're putting them into pension plans that are funded with annuities because they don't want to have the response. Because by the way, if you're a major company that has a 401k plan, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your employees to make sure that money is managed the right way. Is that correct, John? And that's why they're putting them into annuities now because they don't want to take on that risk. Exactly, right? So this is a smart audience today, dude. This is leveled up, no doubt. I could tell. Yeah, and that was the first question. The second question is overfund. All right. So if you look at a typical whole life policy, I'm going to just give you an easy number. Let's say somebody puts $20,000 a year. Instead of putting $20,000 into a 401k, they put $20,000 into a whole life policy. Right? Year one, you have about $3,000 in cash value if it's a traditional policy. That is not overfunded. That's a traditional policy. What's your first name? Brendan? Brandon? That's why Brandon doesn't like it. because he comes from the school of IULs, which is tied to the stock market, which means that cash accumulation, not cash value, that cash accumulation builds a lot faster, right? But it's still tied to something that you can't control. So I love the IUL when I put it on top of the whole life. Not in replace of, but on top. 70, 30, 80, 20 split, right? That's just my play on it. But an overfunded, let's go back to the 20,000, instead of having 3,000 in cash value in year one, if you have 13,000 in cash value in year one, right? Not only did you reduce the cost of insurance, but you have access to more money. And let's say if you have 80 grand laying around somewhere, you could overfund and dump that in. Just to take it out and go buy real estate. Take it out, go buy another business. Take it out and, you know, put it into your social media program, whatever. And when you take it out, you're not taking it, you're borrowing it, it's still earning a rate of return in the policy. Go ahead, Big Daddy. So that when you take that as a loan, that's not taxable. I don't know. The borrowing interest rate, so the better question, I'm going to answer the question, then I'm going to tell you the better question. You want to know what the arbitrage is. So when you borrow, is it still earning more than what you borrow? Yes, yep. But the arbitrage is still in your favor. So it's usually like 1 and 1.5% arbitrage in your favor. But I think, what is the borrowing rate right now if you borrow from the policy? I don't know what it is today. 5, approximately 5. Right? So that's when you overfund. Now, insurance agents, listen guys, gals, the game has changed. And I did this 3 years ago when I told you should start listening. You got to overfund the policies, make less money, and you're going to create raving fans. I just twisted him. He's coming over with us soon, watch. So, yeah.
It's like the 401k as a limit on what you can contribute.
Yeah.
But when you overfund the life insurance fund, is there a limit?
Beautiful question. Intelligent audience, beautiful question. Here's the limitations. The 1986 Tax Act changed the rule on this. Bottom line is they do not only a physical underwriting, but a financial underwriting on top of it. So if you dump $1,000 a year into a whole life, you can't dump in $1 million. I got you, brother. I got you. I got you. If you dump $1,000 a year in your premium, and you want to put in $1 million as a dump it won't allow it. It'll become a taxable event then. So there's calculations, and it's called the MEC rule. There's a calculation in the software that allows us what we could do based on the and this is why modifying. This guy's incredible. It's called a modified endowment contract. But this is why we have 6 meetings, because we're going to work our way through each call to get you to that point so we know what those numbers look like. It's not something that could be done Monday to Tuesday. If it is, don't let the person in your house, they're going to rob your jewelry. I promise you. So I answered yours. Could we get, there's other people. All right. What's up, brother?
So 7 years ago, I set up a cash value, paid up dividend rider, over about like 10 grand.
Yep.
Bank on yourself strategy,
What was
right?
the baseline premium? Do you remember?
The monthly premium?
Well, monthly, yeah.
I was paying about $400 a month for it.
$5,000 a year.
I guess that works
Yep.
out, yeah.
And you dumped in 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Did you do it every year or just one time?
well, so here's the story. So I had a friend who was in the insurance business.
Whoa, I
Yeah.
had a friend.
Yeah. Well, okay, he wasn't
I had
even
a friend.
It's actually even worse because he was a BNI member.
I had a friend. It's
But-
my brother-in-law. I had a friend. They just started out in the business and they're 50 years old. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and I have no idea if this is right or
I'm
wrong.
just kidding.
No, it's fine because I still don't know if this is the right or wrong decision. He basically talked me out of that policy, convinced me to cancel it, and with the mentality of invest or by term invest the difference, right?
Come on up.
My question for you guys is, and his reason was because of how many of the fees go to the insurance product and all this stuff and what yada yada yada. I wasn't able at the time to run a mathematical calculation to figure out who's right and wrong. Can you guys create performers with enough transparency that shows us all the fees, all the downside, to
Yup.
make a fully informed decision on different scenarios?
Yes. Yes. We would bring in all of the financial engineer architects that could build spaceships that could go to the moon and go through the time machine, and I'll do that for you because it's a beautiful question. Because once we prove it out and you get to see the transparency, because that's what you're looking for, it'll create a raving fan, and I have no problem doing that. So we'd have to look at everything you have, though, and then be able to show you the scenario of what you're talking about. But you said something. What was the whole point of why he told you to sell out of it or not do it?
Well, he basically said you should get out of this, you should buy term and invest the difference instead.
And what did you invest the difference in?
Well, I mean, I did do real estate and business and all that, but I mean, I feel like if I would have kept that policy, I'd be in a much better position right now.
How many years ago was this?
I don't know, like 6 or 7.
And the real estate went up and then it went down?
No.
Or are you still getting cash
My real
flow out of
estate's
it?
great, but I'm just
Are you
saying.
cash flowing?
Oh yeah, I bought in 2012 and 14. I couldn't go
So,
wrong.
let me just play with this. So, because I'm gonna play with this a little bit. When it's term and invested difference, and real estate requires much bigger down payments than a 401k plan. So somewhere in that
Well,
$5,000.
My finances is way more complicated than what we're talking about because I
Hold on.
I use a sweep account strategy, so
I love it.
all the cash all of my extra cash just goes to pay that down every day, basically.
love it.
So the real answer to your question is just paying down my big line of credit.
But I love that. Here's my point though. When we get a general question to a specific situation, but we're not looking at the specifics of the overall financial plan, that's important too.
Right.
So a lot of times when you deal with financial people, they're only giving you generalizations and not getting specific. And that's where people get lost in the sauce, right? He didn't. I think it was a hobby for him because he had his other stuff going on. But I think in general terms, people get lost. But to the point of the insurance agent, if he's saying buy term and invest the difference, and the difference was in real estate, and all things being equal, let's say the number was really 100 grand versus 5, right? If it was 100 grand, I think that there's a play where you could look at the calculation, the cost of real estate. I know it went up, the write-off, the acceleration, if you had any acceleration there or not. I don't know your tax situation. But I believe that understanding how to monitor and measure, it can't be in general terms to a specific situation. It has to be global in the overall strategy. But that does bring up a point. Alexa, do you want to talk about this? It's up to you. Your choice. Come on up. So what's your first name? Kevin. Kevin said something powerful, and it was a friend, right? B&I connection. All right. I'm not making fun of it, but the point is, if you're not educated, and that includes insurance agent, and we just talked about that. If you're not educated, some things could happen that could be very regretful. And I'm going to have Alexa share a quick story. Who is licensed? She is my accountability driver. She is my executive assistant. She's also a licensed professional, very good in the business, one-on-one with clients, and develops my high-level relationships. Been in the business now, how many years?
4.
4 years. And before we had the good fortune of working with her, someone very young out of college, she had a situation that I think it'd be good for her to share, because this is what happens if you're not properly educated, and even if you have a license.
Thank you. So to your story, the reason he wanted me to share my story. So I started in the business not knowing anything about money, about finances, and I got my license, my life license. But as you get trained, I don't know what system you came up on, but it's all about your warm market, right? Someone in the business is going through your list, your parents, your uncles, aunts, cousins, and long story short, they convinced my parents to cancel their whole life policy and do the same thing, buy term and invest the difference.
What was
because
the
it
death
was
benefit
better.
that they canceled, though?
$250,000.
Got it.
My parents were older though, so as you know, if you put that same amount of money, you're not getting the same amount of coverage. It's going to be more expensive. So I learned something, because Rob always says you never replace for lower death benefit, right? That's just rule of thumb, but we did. My parents were ecstatic. They were paying less, right? Because term insurance is just way more cost effective, but it's temporary, right? The difference that we were supposed to invest never really got invested, like most cases. And unfortunately, in my case, less than 2 years later, my father passed away from COVID. Oh, thank you very much. And we got a total death benefit of about $30,000. And so, if you can imagine how I felt, because I felt like it was my fault. I mean, I was the one being trained, and I listened to my mentor, because at that point in time, he was the one that knew more than I did. And it was a lack of, and what did you say? You said general?
General terms versus specific, like a
Right.
general situation versus a specific. And when people conflate that in their conversation to make their points, typically, especially licensed folks that are trying to push their product.
Right. So in that small moment, it was all great, right? They, in their eyes, I made my first sale, I'm getting trained, but they didn't look at the full picture, right? They didn't look at the overall plan, and unfortunately, we missed out on over $200,000 in death benefit that could have been really useful. So that is a story that I take when I'm sitting in front of someone, right? When you're helping people make financial decisions, it's not that one moment. It's their whole world, right? Their kids, everything plays a part, right? So, yeah, that's my story.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you so much. And folks, thank you for listening. Yeah, go ahead. One more time.
Oh, yeah.
If you can, yeah.
Yep.
We have term inside our perm that we convert. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I can relate to that story because I have a friend that's in the insurance business, and I'm not a customer of his because he's out of state of Michigan.
Yep.
And so we converse all the time about how he's taking people's, like, senior citizens, is this policy, we're going to get them to do this, we're going to roll $200,000 from this place. And then he talks about the commission in the next statement, what he's going to make from that. It's more like he's more personally interested in the commission versus the benefit of the family.
Yep.
Oh, I got this person with $1 million worth of policy over here is getting ready to come over to me, and I'm going to show him how to convert this, da-da-da-da-da. And I see a lot of people can get injured financially like that. And me personally, I would never tell him that, but I would never allow him to use my money for anything concerned with it. That's why when you said this, I'm more interested in consulting with you because I'm at a stage in my life where I need that.
Yeah. And that's the key to overfunding of, thanks for sharing that, Jay. And Alexa, thank you as well. When we overfund, not only is the cost of insurance less, but the commission is significantly less. So for us, when we've gone from 8 to 3,000 appointments, it's all about service and being able to create these plans and get them off the ground as fast as we can so the folks could use that money to do other things, especially in the infancy stages. Yes? So watch this. If somebody said yes, don't let them in your house. Don't let them in your house. They're going to rob your jewelry. What I would say is I love to sit down and look at everything, have a full global conversation, and then be able to give you much better information and action steps that I would take. Yep. Yes?
I think right now we're focused too much on vehicles and a solution, and you just said the point. It's what are your outcomes? What are you looking to do to accomplish your life? What can you afford right now? Ultimately, you want to be involved in all those, but whole life may be now, maybe later, right? Have you funded all the other vehicles in retirement? Case in point, you showed 401k and cash balance plan, right? There's formulas you use to make sure, right? For example, if you own a business and you want to do a cash balance plan, which allows you to put way more at a head than a 401k, you first do a census and see how does your age compare to your employees.
That's our connection to Tax Hive, by the way, to that point.
So
that's the stuff we do.
Just don't focus solutions, focus on what are the outcomes you want, and then you talk to someone who knows what they're talking about in concert with your other folks to kind of get the best plan for you.
Yeah.
Tell them the goal that you want to achieve, and then they'll give you the solution to get there.
You guys are wild right now with participation. It's off the charts.
Don't hate, participate.
So I know annuities come with like a death benefit, and also there's like restrictions based on age. Would you like suggest using them at like a younger age, or not really even start funding them till you're at like a later age? And then also, can you overfund them like you would with the cat because there's a death benefit along with annuities?
All right, so good questions. Check, check, and check, check. I think that young is 20 or is it 30 or 40? Because listen, I'm 52, and right now young is 45.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
I'm 30.
It's all about perspective. I get stuff in the mail for AARP.
Well,
I'm like an AARP MVP right now, straight up.
I just know you can't do anything with it like 59 and a half or something like that where you can't.
Say that again?
With annuities, you're restricted till you're like 59 and a half.
Yeah, well, there's fixed annuities, there's variable annuities, there's all these different type of annuities. So I think, well, that's a specific question, but I don't know the generalities.
Yeah, I was just curious if it's...
So I'm not avoiding the question, just so we're clear. What we do, though, here's the best answer, is we maximize the advantages of all the
Okay.
products and minimize the disadvantages. But I can't do your plan and his plan the same.
Right.
Because in his plan, it's all custom.
But does
So
it help
these
to
are-
fund it earlier to be able to accumulate more on
Are
annuities?
you a entrepreneur that wants
Yeah.
to control and be able to get 2,000 investment properties over 40 years, or are you more conservative? See, I'm going to come back with questions.
I'm aggressive.
So you may not want to do
The
that.
restrictions, right? Yeah. And then again, like with the death benefit, does it work the same way with like a life insurance where you can like overfund it?
Yeah, so there's a case I just delivered. You'll love this. The base premium was 200,000.
On an annuity?
No. No. You're saying it's awesome for one thing, but I'm not saying, but the overall dumping was 800,000 on top of it. So like the insurance agents are going ape, you know what, right now? Like, what are you talking about? Why would you dump so much money in like that? These people are about to take their money and buy 3 different investment properties that, you know, the down payment requires about $800,000. So it took the death benefit from 4 million to 19 million once we incorporated the dumping. Right? Powerful play. Powerful play. Right? And this isn't even a premium finance play. This is just the guy, you know, he's told there was some kind of investment that came in, he had all this capital, and he wants to put it into, you know, alternatives as well as real estate. So we love doing plans like that. We love doing all plans, but those are real fun because if anyone else was to look at it, and if they're commission driven, they're not going to be able to play in that space with me because they're going to have to give up a lot to be able to do that. Because there was a lot of outlay. Yep.
For everybody in the room, just to say that, like, regardless, you need life insurance. I don't care if you're 18 years old or you're 19, you need life insurance. Like, and someone that tells you you don't, then you shouldn't talk to them because
Don't let them in your house.
Yeah, don't let them in your house because
Right.
I'm glad that I have long-term care
Good for you.
and I have living benefits. I have all of that stuff. I know that's Greek to some people right now, but I'm telling you, my mom, 76, I finally got her a crappy little $12,000 life insurance policy, but that's the legacy she's going to leave. But that's because she didn't know any of this stuff.
right. No
Because
education.
and something is better than nothing. So
Right.
if you do it, when you do a plan with Rob, like I'm just saying, like everyone needs life insurance. Period. I don't care what it is. And to answer his question about the annuity, it depends. There's annuities that just build. You're just building, you know, kind of some interest, and there's ones that lifetime income. So it just depends on. There's so many different types of annuities. So
Yeah.
it just depends on what your strategy
It's a long
is. So I just wanted to say that.
To his point.
All right,
Let's
so
give it up for Brandon.
everybody
Let's
change
give
your
it up
flights.
for Brandon. Hold on.
Change your flight. Yeah, Brandon's great.
He is.
Brandon, Junius, Will, we all, you know, we have a couple plants in the room.
I love it.
Does anybody
love
want
it.
to change their flight? We'll do the bonus session tomorrow
go.
morning.
We'll shoot some podcasts tonight if you
Right.
want.
You had one more? Okay, here we go.
Here's my goal, and I've been reading a lot about with Robert Kiyosaki with cash flow quadrant.
Yep.
You know, being on the business side and taking the cash flow from the business side to get into the investment quadrant, whether you're saving in taxation and all of those things.
Yep.
So, multifamily real estate. It's not so much that I'm in love with multifamily real estate. It's the tax advantage, depreciation,
Yeah.
and the cash flow. Right now, I'm 49. I'm single, no kids, and I have passive income.
Ladies, you got to check him out. His money's going to be correct.
I'm not saying that to get anybody, but I'm just saying. Passive income right now, my passive income without me lifting a red cent is $43,000 a year.
Love it.
Okay, so that's not enough for my lifestyle,
Understood.
obviously. So my goal is I want to live off about 20,000 passive.
Got it. All right.
How does that, what would I be able to do? Just, I know this is generalized. This formula with overfunding my life insurance to get into the multifamily, but I've also known that there are life insurance companies that give loans for real estate.
Is there, or you know that they do? Is that what you're asking?
I know that they do.
Okay, that I'm not on that side.
Okay.
Except for you borrow your money from your own self.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think if you're looking at $20,000 a month in passive income,
Yeah.
thank you, brother. Appreciate everything.
I'll make sure.
Yeah.
I get it.
20,000. Right now you're at 4,000 a month, right? So you need
Right now I'm about
you want 5x,
I want another 16,000 on top of it.
4x on what you have.
Correct.
Right.
Mhm.
How many properties do you have right now? That
None. Zero.
Okay, so usually the rule of thumb, I would say I'm just going to give a round about number, every 300,000 property, I'll use that number, would produce in cash flow, I would say maybe $1,500 a month. Does that make sense with your numbers? What would the cash flow be on a property for 300 or 400 grand, just so I can re-engineer this for him? Okay, so let's say it's 400,000 a property. That's going to give you 1,000 a month cash flow. You still need another 15,000, so you would need 15 $400,000 properties, whatever that math is. What is it? 400,000 times 15 is what? 6 million. What's 20% on 6 million? 1.2. Okay, so what is that divided by 5 years? So if you could begin to have $256,000 available each year for the next 5 years, or cut that in half over the next 10 years as down payments for real estate, or if you become really resourceful, you get other people to do it and you run the show, you don't have to do any money, but you have the properties itself, that'll get you the cash flow you need initially over the next 5 years, but by the time you're 60, 65, and 70, that 20 is going to be 40, 50, or 60,000 at some point.
20 years, I'll be 69, so.
Yeah, well, you're 49.
I'm 49,
Yeah,
yes.
so you need a 5-year stretch to get to those properties, right? Which would cost you $250,000 a year as down payments, unless you get other people to put up the money,
Right.
which I'm sure you could do, right? Do that for 5 years. In 5 years, you're at that $20,000 a month, but remember, it's going to start paying down mortgages too. You're going to be able to draw money out of property.
And I can raise the rents as well.
Absolutely.
Done.
That's just simple without me looking at everything else.
You're single? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. But guys, gals, thank you so much. I hope it was good. I hope you're walking away with some power that you could step into and utilize right away and be able to understand the importance of coordination of professionals. It can happen. Don't think it can't. The Epic Wealth Builder is I would say, the glue to make that happen. And I want to thank everybody for your time today and for listening to me talk.
Rob.
Thanks,
brother.
Appreciate it.
Hey, let's show some more gratitude. Give him another round of applause. Really good stuff, valuable stuff. Let me just hear you with a